there's been so much change in entertainment and in just the sociology and the demographics of the U.S. And now I know that after the documentary, the problem with Apu about the convenience store character that you used to voice, you said, I'm not going to voice that character anymore, and I'm not going to voice other characters that you've been with for decades that aren't my ethnicity. Walk me through that decision and if you miss them.
Well, I did all those characters with love and to the best of my ability. And as you said, they were created in a time where we didn't think twice about providing voices like that, or caricaturing or parodying different ethnicities. And that's turned out to be part of the problem is we didn't consider it. We didn't consider the ramifications it might have. And in some ways, those consequences weren't clear for 10, 20, 30 years later. And with, people who grew up, Indian people who grew up with the character of Apu in this country and could honestly report about what that was like for them. And, it wasn't a quick decision for me. It wasn't like I heard the documentary or saw it or heard it was coming out and then went, all right, that's it, I'm not doing this character anymore. It sent me on a journey of discovery, which I encourage every person in this country to take, certainly every white person in this country to go on. And I know there's a lot of talk about it now, and there's a lot of backlash about, it's not okay to be white, and it's not about that. It's about acknowledging, for most people, it's just blind spots. It's just not considering what the consequences might be, the effect it might have had on people of color. Whether they're Indian or Latin or Black or whatever part of this culture, and really considering the effect that it may have had, that took me a while. I didn't want to. On the one hand, I didn't want to knee-jerk respond to criticism and just stop doing a voice, because that's what it came down to for me. Is do I stop doing this voice or not? Which took really a few years for me to sort out. I didn't want to knee-jerk stop because people, like the joke I make, but it's kind of true, is this like 17 hipsters in a microbrewery in Brooklyn deciding who should say what and when? Or is this like a real harm that was done to Indian people in this country? And I eventually came out on, there's a lot of gray area, but eventually I came out on the side of, actually, there was some harm done, and with the best of intentions, no matter how funny it was and how much love I tried to put into it. So it seemed the right thing to do. Not to mention, let's leave room for people of color to voice themselves. The irony is not lost on me that part of the problem of unintended or institutionalized or implicit bias or racism in this country is you literally are taking the voice away from certain people. So let's let them quite literally have their voice back. I mean, why shouldn't an Indian fellow voice Apu? And now it's not only the voice. There's other factors to keep in mind. There's the characterization and how much is a stereotype, and and this and that, and that matters as well. But some of my other characters in the show, even though they weren't so over the top or weren't stereotypical, let's let people of color voice themselves. As a white person in Hollywood, I have plenty of opportunity. There's no dearth of it for me. On the show, right? I have literally dozens of other characters that are not problematic for me to voice. So let's let people quite literally speak for themselves.
This Organized Chaos video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. You guys could probably hear me better when I turn on the microphone. That's a live streaming tip I've heard. How's everybody doing? Cypher's basement should be good to go soon. Hey, Mikael, I see you there. Yeah, how's everybody doing? Should be a fun stream. My plan right now is to maybe do like about an hour with Cypher's basement, and then maybe about an hour looking at Robot Head, because I haven't looked at Robot Head for a while, and I'm sure it's solidly cringe. Maybe he did something solid on Andor. I'm not sure. And then maybe an hour on Request, something like that. Not particular which order we do it in. Well, Cypher's basement will be coming up first. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. Okay, he says he is ready. So let me set this up so you guys can hear him and give him a call.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let me... Seems like your camera's loading in. Let me see. Ooh, you sound very... Like, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you, yeah. What's going on?
Oh, nothing much. Oh, don't do this to me, computer. No. How are you doing?
Oh, that's a good question. I figured, because I saw the EVS stream, I figured, can you hear me okay?
You saw the EVS stream?
Yeah, you saw the EVS stream, right?
But no, I have not actually watched that EVS stream.
Oh, no. I mean that I had seen the EVS stream that you did with him, and the format...
Oh, the debate, I gotcha.
Yeah, that format didn't really work the best because it wasn't like a kind of, I guess you could say, debate where there was really any idea about rules other than just try to be on your best behavior, that kind of thing. I figured if we ask questions and leave them uninterrupted and then do the same thing with answers, I think we understand each other the best if we do it that way.
Yeah, we could go for something like that. We could see how it goes.
Okay, I guess my camera's not actually. I don't know what's going on. Because it's not coming. I don't see myself coming up in your end at all.
Yeah, your camera has not come in yet, and I'm still messing with my audio issue. Oh, it seems to be connecting us right back up. Oh, and there you are. Hold on. Let me get the pop-up set up. Okay. There. Okay. Awesome. I think we're good to go.
Very cool. Very cool. Nice to see y'all. How you doing? Howdy. Cypher here. Nice to see you.
Well, it's still doing the audio thing, so I'm just going to have to mute when I'm not speaking. So, well, you were talking about doing this much more organized, so that shouldn't be a big issue then. So, how you doing, man?
That's a really good question. I've taken time ever since I spoke with you about, hey, let's do this thing, do this stream thing, I tend to edit videos that you don't hear a lot of ums and ahs, but I tend to think out what I'm going to say. So if you ever do hear me say anything, unless there's some notation that this is humor, and typically being serious, I am very strong with insults. That is a given. That is true. But in the case of this stream that we're doing here, I've taken time, considerations paid for what I should ask you, because I feel like if there is any problem, the biggest issue that you and I have, or someone from Comicsgate, for instance, the biggest issue is that there's not as much communication. And that's the issue, is at least in my opinion, because I look at things, I see some things that are unrealistic. I don't like, for instance, when your boy Zach, I don't like when he says that father and son hugging each other in a Superman comic, when he says that that's kind of a thing you shouldn't put in. You don't want to have these characters showing that they're a family, that kind of thing. Like I don't think he's against the family model. I think he's very much for that. But like, there's some things, Comicsgate, with your side, even like my own thoughts. I always contemplate these things. So that's with questions I want to ask you. I want to make sure that they're questions that are worth the time. So what I've been up to, I've been giving very careful thought to important things. So.
Okay, excellent. So, yeah, I guess you have questions. So, we could just dive right into that.
Sure thing. And so the format being question, because I was thinking question for a question, because it shouldn't just be me talking about you and vice versa or anything. So if I have a question for you, you can say, if you don't really have a question, in mind, you can say that you'd like me to answer that question as well. I'll do the same thing with you sometimes. So if you ask me a question, then I'll say I'd like you to answer the same question. So is that a good idea? Do you like that?
Yeah, no, it seems like you've thought this out way more than I usually do. So yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, cool. And if you're seeing this white, it's because this is my list of questions. So just a very basic one, because I looked at your older content, the versus stuff, some of that, and you were doing really good work then. I really like that, and it was only just a year ago that you started the first video that really started you sort of down this path, if you want to say it like that, is you were talking about Comicsgate or Ethan Van Sciver, one or the other, I can't quite remember, but it was along those lines. And I'm seeing like from that point, there was more of a focus on people bringing up like their various issues with like current day Marvel, current day DC. The big question I have, why do you actually run your channel? And what do you think the actual focus of the channel is, or at least what it should be?
Well, that's actually an interesting question. So I've always been into like nerd culture, obviously. I'd say my channel has been mostly movie based, but like a degree of comic book definitely informs it. So obviously I do like the comic books style stuff. And I'll be blunt. I kind of fell into doing, like, I did the Comicsgate coverage because essentially I did a coverage of a Jim Shooter panel, and a Comicsgate guy grabbed that and used it as evidence that Jim Shooter supported Comicsgate, which there's no evidence of anything like that. And essentially I felt that, like lots of people were saying, hey, you guys, implying myself and that channel worked together to bring that coverage to light. And I saw lots of people in the comments saying stuff like that. And I felt the need to address it because I actually had no idea what Comicsgate even was. This was like late last year. I had no idea what it was. And I looked into it. I looked into Ethan Van Sciver, and quite frankly, I found the whole movement kind of disgusting. And I felt the need to establish that I was not a part of that, and I don't welcome that in my community.
Yeah, it's fair. I guess before, if you want to move on to another question, specifically from you, because I'm sure you probably have a question or two. What do you think you would like to do from this point with the channel? Like, do you think you still want to focus on giving Comicsgate folks like any kind of focus? I feel like you could do a lot more. I don't know. But like, what do you want to do from this point?
Oh, well, honestly, the Versus videos will be coming back soon. So kind of my goal is to kind of do, I want to do more videos that aren't just reaction videos, because that's mainly what I've been doing. And I think the reaction stuff's going to become a big part of my channel, since streaming's become a big part of my channel, and that's something I can do while streaming easily. But honestly, I've always wanted this to be a platform where not only do I say my opinions on movies and stuff like that, but also I can kind of be myself and state things I want to say. And kind of, I feel like over the past year, it's kind of become more that, and I like that. I feel like, while I love the Versus videos, the fact that they went down in popularity kind of almost helped free me, so I could become a bit more free in what I was saying and doing. So it was kind of nice. And like I said, I want to get back to it because it's a format I do enjoy. But I also feel like the YouTube climate towards comic books and video movies has become, quite frankly, very toxic. So yeah, I want to, have my say and say I don't like the direction it's going in.
That's fair. Okay, floor is yours.
All right, so I guess I would ask, how did you become introduced to myself and Dane?
There you go. So I tend to, and I'm just going to give it to you straight, I do tend to watch what EVS is doing. I tend to watch it a lot. And I'm only really there because you could find yourself with a few reasons, I'm sure. But the main reason is I'm looking to get in more into just the media itself. I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I like to do, independent work all around. Just, leave it straight up business. And I saw that he was doing a 2-part stream where he was reacting to you and Dane. That's where Cultural Kill Shot. That's where the focus of that first video is on that stream between the two of you, between Dane and yourself. And so I found myself listening in a little more, listening intently, and found myself like thinking like this doesn't make any sense. When I hear that people are saying that it can only be for woke reasons that a black person puts a black person in their comic when there are a lot of black people in Texas, I don't like hearing that. When you get this question a lot, what is wokeness? You have this shifting answer based on the people, because every single person that thinks about wokeness in any context, they come from different walks of life. Everyone's answer is going to be different. When I'm hearing that it's woke, it's got to be considered woke because there's a black person in this comic. You hear from people you shouldn't use a Japanese pen name if you're a white guy. You shouldn't write about Hispanic people if you're from Cambodia. You hear all this stuff. Apu's voice actor not doing Apu anymore because he's not that race. I'm sorry. So when I hear that coming from you guys, and then you agree with Dane that, yeah, it is woke that Eric July put a black man in his comic as his main character, like I have to pay attention to that because my channel, the focus of my channel is on finances, is on the user experience, and all things all to do in between industry otherwise. And I don't like to get political. But when I do hear people say that, yes, it is woke that a black man put a black man in his comic, and then you consider you can't write about other people's experience, should Eric July have put someone from Lithuania in his comic as his main character? So that's why I started to really pay attention. And that's why I have a nearly 6-hour video out about that stream. And I may come across as harsh, but I feel more pity and sadness than I do anger. And this isn't us. This isn't how we should be as people. I don't agree with it. So that's how I've come to pay attention to you guys. That's really it. Seriously, that is really it. I don't watch Mauler's content or Doomcock. I hardly even watch Ryan Kinel's shit. I mean, when the entire time he's doing his videos, he shakes like a dog and is having a seizure, and it's like I feel bad for him. And it's the same rapid fire shit. I know he's not an Italian gangster. I'm mostly Sicilian. I actually have mafia in my family. I know for a fact that it's very forward and direct and blunt. I'm giving you the business. I'm giving you the business. Just shaking the whole time. Some things annoy the fuck out of me. And when I'm hearing this dumb bullshit come from that stream, I'm going to respond. And yeah, it came out to nearly 6 hours, but why wouldn't it?
All right, so yeah, there's a lot to address with that one. I guess let's just start okay, you brought up woke a lot, and essentially Dane's whole argument about Isom is that Eric July made a comic book about a black man, and therefore obviously he cares about representation, because why would he make a comic book about a black man if he didn't care about representation? And that's just his whole argument. We might have called it woke jokingly, because honestly, Dane and I don't really feel like woke has a definition. At least nothing. It honestly seems to just be thrown around by guys like Ethan Van Sciver and shit like that. Whenever there's a woman or a minority being represented or anything non-traditional roles like. I guess I would ask you, what are your thoughts on the term woke? What does it mean to you?
Okay, that's a fair question. See, and that's actually, I was going to ask you the same thing, so I'll answer that if you're willing to answer it as well, if you can, because I don't know. I don't know, what background you come from, so I can't even. It's not fair for me to think that you would have a definition for that word, because again, as you had said before, that you're really just for the most part on YouTube making shit within your own bubble, right? So. I can't imagine that you would or wouldn't have a definition for it, but if you could come up with one for me, that would be really great. But yeah, as far as what I would consider woke to me, woke is there's a lot of ideas to do with identity, and it's this idea that, to me at least, woke is this idea that you are trying to acknowledge to try to be woke, you're trying to acknowledge identity and existence. And so you take a lot of humanity and emotion in mind, but it goes off the deep end. There's a thing you've probably heard of, it's called the purity spiral, where it essentially morality it takes center stage, and it eventually wipes everything out because nothing is pure in this world. And there's to do with wokeness. It's because you're so involved in it. You're getting more into it the more that you become awake or whatever, right? The more you focus on it, it becomes your entire life, which is why you'll have a lot of these identitarians, these ideologues making wokeness their whole focus, their entire world. They need to make sure that their existence and just existence itself is fair to people in some manner, but there are some people that maybe don't have it the same as us. So you get to think about other things like that, right? How are they doing over there? And it just carries on. And it may not sound like a direct answer of that exactly, but that's because it's such a felt sensation that it's hard to really attribute words to. That's why your definition, aside from everyone having different background stuff, everyone's experience is different. So everyone's going to have this different definition for wokeness. You could say it's very grounded in reality with politics and shit, but it's gotten that way because people can't help themselves. It becomes their life to think about emotions and stuff all the time, and think about who could be downtrodden. And I don't know why, in some instances, some people in this woke space will look at downtrodden blackness and they'll associate the ghetto with that for some reason, and they start looking at programs, developing initiatives and shit like that. It's this idea that people should be doing better, but they're not, and it may have something to do with where they come from. The focus is very shifted. Although it's why there's so much infighting. It's very shifted. One day you're friends with these woke people. The next day you've said something that's a little bit off and you're on their bad side. It's because it's a shifting thing with a focus on morality. And in many ways, it's a lot of what pilots it is vanity, because people have to look good if they're going to get involved in this. Your efforts, people may not see your efforts unless you're visible. And it gets to be so insane. It's so hard for me to define, honestly, that I don't even really know what to say to you exactly if you were to ask me that question 2 weeks from now, because I'm still a jittering mess trying to tell you what it means to me. It's insanity is what it is. Wokeness is insanity.
All right, that's a lot to parse through again. So like you talk about stuff being like, you talk about media being like all woke, and like the more woke the worse. Can you tell me a piece of media that like you would define as being all woke?
Wait, when did I say that something is all woke? I tend to say a lot. I do apologize, but all woke. I may have said all woke just as part of a sentence, but I don't think there's anything necessarily that's all woke. Then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm not paying enough attention still even yet. So maybe there is something I can name. I just can't think of it. But yeah, shit, dude. For the question.
Well, I guess we'll break it down to be a bit simpler. Can you name me a piece of media that you would consider just generically woke and why it is woke?
Ooh, because see, there are woke things that work and woke things that just don't, right? Like the boys people are saying is woke, but Homelander's not fucking around with Soldier Boy. Yeah, they made the dude the father or whatever. Sorry for the spoiler. But we don't have Soldier Boy bothering with other men. We don't have what is his name? Homelander fucking around with guys. People are looking at what individual actors are saying, and then going, "Oh, this person has got like some leftist identitarianism shit to them." But like the Boys has some woke stuff to it, but it's not a bad show, right? Something can be woke. It doesn't mean it's bad, right? I don't know if anyone has ever said that out loud, but it's true. So people are saying The Boys is woke. It just so turns out that it's actually not a bad show, at least as far as I'm concerned. But something that is woke that sucks. I could say the fucking Batwoman. Sorry, it's been a while since that's come up. That is a thing that has been overwhelmingly woke and woefully so to its detriment. When you have the absence of story. It feels like in some capacities, because some of these girls have relationships with other girls, it gets distracted. Like this is the thing that bothers me about like a lot of these leftist talking points and other things to do with art and media, is that it's trying to give too much restraint to something. It's trying to tell people that they can't do something because of some factor about themselves they can't really change. There are things that aren't woke that suck, and things that are woke that aren't suck, and it goes back and forth. I can name any number of things, but yeah, that's so. If I have to give two examples, I'd say The Boys is a woke show, a good example of a show that can be woke and not suck, and Batgirl, Batwoman, whatever it's called, an example of a show that was woke and didn't do very well as it turned out. So.
All right, so like you seem to think woke just means like same-sex relationships. So do you think there's an issue with showing same-sex relationships on screen?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know if I gave the wrong impression. I apologize for that. I don't know. I said I'm a bisexual. I grew up going to pride parades. And I honestly, I miss the old gays. The old gays of the yesterdays, classy gentlemen. I miss them. I haven't seen them in a while. I'll say that. But no, like, wokeness is everything to do with identity and nothing to do with contributing to like really a functioning thing. Like you can have so much of a gauge and make some things work with some pieces of writing, but if it's overwhelmingly woke, if it's focused on everything to do with like again identity, and you have some characters in some certain roles where it's like, oh hey, we have this Black woman here, and we're going to give her a great role for some reason. But you have to look at that in a vacuum for a moment. Consider what is going on with her, that she is going to be in the position that she's in. Maybe it makes sense because of her background, right? We don't know these characters' backgrounds. So I personally can't say if Reva, I didn't watch the Kenobi stuff, so I don't know quite what she's in. But Reva, whatever she did, I don't know how she got her position, but I can't say that she belongs there. Now, is she doing right by her role and the military? Is she doing that? I don't know. That's what I care about. If that gets distracted and it keeps happening, all right, you're going to see things that maybe shouldn't quite be there, so to speak. Not necessarily anything to do with a character or a setting, but any combination of things to do with that. So.
All right. So, I mean, you brought up Reva, and you're asking whether or not she belongs to be there. Why wouldn't she belong to be there?
No, I'm not asking whether or not she belongs to be there. I didn't actually do that.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess. So, essentially, your argument is you don't like woke stuff being in stuff, but it can be okay sometimes, and
it's more is the wokeness, is the sensed wokeness overwhelming, rising? Is it affecting the story in a good or a bad way? Again, The Boys, right? The Boys is a woke show in some capacities. People are saying that it's woke. I see some things that could make it woke, but I don't think it's a bad show.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm just trying to get a handle on your thoughts on this type of thing. I'm still not 100% clear on it. So,
that's fine. You ask as many questions as you want. I got a bunch of questions for you still.
All right, cool. So God, I'm still trying to think of how to parse it out.
We can make this a recurring thing. By the way, we can make this a recurring thing. I like talking to folks, even if I don't agree with them. I like to talk to them. The description of cultural kill shot number 1, and at the end of the video, I say that it's your freedom of speech is more important than your freedom of response. So I would like the idea of having more of these conversations, because I feel like we can get along. And, if we're talking with each other, it's like you said, through text, tonality is gone, interaction it suffers. But talking like this is good. So I don't mind even coming back, because this may help in the long run. Part of the reason I'm actually here is I like to help you find more of a focus, if I can manage it, because there are some things going on. Maybe you could do better by. Same with myself. Maybe I could learn something from you. I don't know yet.
All right. So, yeah. So, can you give me an example of something that you think was woke that was dominated by identity politics? Because that seems to be what you're harping on woke means.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's basically like my issue with like wokeness in media is if it's affecting the story. If it isn't affecting the story much, and again, there's a few examples you could pull from that Batwoman show. I think it was Batwoman. I don't think it was called Batgirl. Sorry if I got it wrong, but I do think it's
No,
Batwoman.
the show was Batwoman. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, that show, it had its distractions in place, right? And for better or worse, it took the show in some direction, and it afforded characters some plot armors, right? And that was disappointing. But we've seen what happened to the show. It is what it is, I guess. So.
I actually have not seen Batwoman, except for I think there's an episode or two in Crisis. That's all I've seen of it. So I don't know much about it. All I know is the character, who I know is a lesbian. I don't really call there being much more to her identity other than being a woman and being a lesbian, and of course being a superhero crime fighter. But yeah,
It's fine. Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question then.
Go for it.
Yeah. Now, this is more of the intro stuff. I want to know or ask, do you believe your content has changed? And if so, why has it?
Of course my content's changed. I mean, I never used to show my face on camera. And yeah, obviously, well, honestly, it's changed because I've become exposed to the current YouTube nerdscape. And like the people complaining about the woke stuff used to be when I started. And like as I was, growing, it wasn't a big part of it. It was almost kind of like a joke. Like you'd see this random video where somebody's complaining about, a woman stars in something, isn't that awful? And it was like a joke because it was just terrible reviews. And then honestly, I didn't really watch a whole lot of YouTube in the nerd space for a while. And then I decided to do some reactions. And then I found out that this type of stuff has grown to dominate the YouTube nerd space. And I felt it was important to start calling it out because honestly, stuff like Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers, this is all very toxic stuff to general fandoms. It's essentially training people to yell every time there's a woman or minority in a position that they aren't typically in. And I don't think that's a good attitude to have, ever. So yeah, that's why there's been a shift. Like I said, I still want to do coverage of movies and stuff like that. Versus is coming back. But yeah, I just felt it was important to start calling this out because they're wildly popular and they're just growing. I guess I can come back at you with I don't know. Like I really get the sense your description of woke is very nebulous. So I guess maybe let's try to bring this a bit to something localized. Like obviously you have an issue with my content. Can you give me a specific example of something I've said or done?
Ooh, oh man, Jesus fucking Christ! As it is, I've got the next video is nearly 4 hours long, and it is focused on you. But it's just you'll, jeez, oh man, there's so many. Holy shit, man! What a question. That's a good question, man. Look, what would I want to bring up exactly? Yeah, I guess one thing in particular, actually, you had called Rags a racist for saying that Riva is a horrifically poorly written character that makes no sense whatsoever, and she's a clown person who does very unintentionally funny things, and she yells silly. A horrifically written character that makes no sense whatever. She's a joke and a clown. You called Rags racist for that, and it doesn't make any sense to me to tar and feather someone for saying something about a character that with no indication or focus on that character's race. I was going to ask you what racism means to you, because really this one thing in particular, because I'd rather bring up things that are important to bring up and not just any old number of random things. But it's this thing in particular. I feel you're being incredibly unfair to Rags, because calling him a racist for saying Riva is a horrifically poorly written character that makes no sense whatsoever, and she's a clown person who does very unintentionally funny things, and she yells silly, a horrifically written character that makes no sense whatever, she's a joke and a clown. It's unfair, in my general opinion, that Rags should be called a racist for saying that. So, like, if I were to say one thing in particular that I have maybe an issue with, it would be that in particular because that is damning, really. If calling calling someone a racist is a bad thing, like why misrepresent him as a person just from a general statement? Really, a criticism of her portrayal, just her character. I mean, granted, I'm sure it's not her fault that she ended up that way. Maybe the yell could have been better. I don't know, but it's that it's not her fault anyway. But he's criticizing the writing of the character, the way the character was, portrayed. That if I were to say one thing in particular, like that's it. And that when I see that happen, and I see other things you said that are just unrealistic, for starters. I don't know why you would say those things. It boggles my brain, man.
All right, so I've addressed this before, but I will happily address it again. So in that video, what I say is, listen, I find it suspicious that he's calling Riva a clown person based on what I've seen of the show. She doesn't act like a clown, so I don't know why he's calling her a clown person, and I personally suspect he won't call her a clown person if she was played by a white man, which was my quote. But I've also established that maybe I'm wrong. That being said, I don't give a shit about Rags. He has said many things that are very racist, even if that doesn't technically count. I still find it suspicious. But he has been on the record saying that the reason why there aren't more minorities in video games or involved with video games is because we live in a meritocracy, which is just crazy. If you watch his Xanderthal debate, he drops the N-bomb super early. And just recently on EFAP, he was joking about the death of George Floyd. So, yeah, he...
Oh, I'm sorry. I made a noise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, he has plenty of racist stuff he's said. So, yeah. So, even in that original video, all I said was I find it suspicious that he calls... Riva a clown person, and I don't think he would if it was played by a white man. But even if he wasn't doing that to be racist, he has plenty of other history of racism, which I even say in that video. So I'm comfortable saying Rags is a racist, and he's welcome to debate me if he wants to prove me wrong.
Okay. Hey, that's fair. All right, cool. Good stuff. Let's see. So, right, you asked me a question. I got one for you then here. So I covered basically the Rags thing I was going to bring up, and I'm glad that we got that squashed because maybe I'm sure there's some misunderstanding on my end, certainly. But yeah, I'm glad that I've got that sort of quashed. I don't know about the things he said on other streams. As it is, Rags is a furry, so I'm not really too concerned with what you think of the fella, but it's okay. But I know that, so as far as a question goes for you, I'd like to know, because you call Comicsgate a hate group, how do you define a hate group? How do you define a hate group?
Well, I guess a group that... Am I on? Yes. A group that essentially goes through and likes to harass people who have differing opinions. Heck, I know the origin of the thing was, there was Flown Steinberg died, and a lot of women who worked at Marvel went to have a milkshake in her honor and posted a picture on Twitter, and a whole bunch of these angry guys got mad at them for doing that, and that was one of the origins of Comicsgate. There was that Mockingbird comic book cover where she wore a t-shirt that says, it's something like, I have a feminist agenda? Crap, I'm forgetting the exact, but something about having a feminist agenda. And comics, and the early stages comic books people, when they're coming together, decide to go ahead and mock that cover and start doing reinterpretations of that cover with essentially Mockingbird being raped and beaten wearing that t-shirt. So there's lots of bad stuff. Jose does a fantastic video on it that is worth checking out. I want to say probably about halfway to 2/3 he goes into all their harassment campaigns. They even... I know there's a case where a comic book store was broken into because they refused to carry a Richard Meyer comic. I recommend checking out that video. It's a damn good video.
I will consider it. Okay.
All right. Yeah. I mean, do you have something? Do you have a criticism? I guess, I have a question. Have you actually watched any of my content, or have you just watched people cover my content? And if you've actually watched,
Sorry.
I was going to say, if you've actually watched my content, do you have any issues with my content separate from what other people have said?
Okay, yeah. So as far as what other people say, my only time with you on other people's content was EVS twice because he streamed with you. And then I looked over the RAG stuff because I was wondering how a back and forth would go between creators. I tend to study how people operate with each other. I've been studying people for something like 20 years now, and so sociology, psychology, those are huge things of mine. And so I wanted to see with you and Rags what exactly would look like, how you two would play off of each other. I'm surprised there wasn't like a stream with the two of you. I don't know if that would be a care of anyone's, but I don't know if it's worth pursuing necessarily either. So as far as these things go, other people's content, I'm only so aware of you with them. Now, with your older content, I watched a few of your videos. I looked at it was what was it? It was Spawn and Catwoman, I think it was.
I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever covered. Are you talking about the movie Spawn? I don't think I've ever covered Spawn. Period. But
sorry, Venom and Catwoman. That's what it was.
Oh, okay, you're talking about the verses. Okay, yes, I did.
Yeah.
Do Venom versus Catwoman.
Yeah, I looked at that. I looked at your first video that you ever released, and I liked the difference in quality. Of course, you would eventually move up in the world. Of course, you would have to, right? If you care about this. So yeah, I looked over some of your older stuff, and I see such a contrast between when you started versus when you were doing the versus stuff, and now, and that you're being covered by other people now. Mind you, I have the YouTube dislike viewer enabled, and I saw that you got quite a much better, much good, whatever you want to say it, reception when you were doing stuff that it seemed like it was something that you cared about, particularly the stuff to do with like EVS and Rags and Mauler. Like, it does seem very reflexive. I'm sure you would say yourself that it's very reflexive, reactive, because you've said a few times already that you are in some way an answer, just like what Dane has said, that you're in some way an answer to these guys out here, these Comics Hate guys. Now, your Mauler review reaction, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, it was requested of me that I look at that review reaction, whatever you want to call it, of Mauler's video. And you've been it seems unrealistic or missing a point, not focused throughout the duration of that video. In some way, yeah, you were focused here and there because you had to bring up some kind of a point to what Mauler was saying. But a lot of what you were saying in the video, let me make sure, if you want, I could bring up a few examples. A lot of what you were saying in the video just doesn't make any sense. So it's like 4 hours of just going over that. And I find myself having a hard time agreeing with you. At the same time, I bring up a few examples of my own to make sense of things. So, it's not just what other people are saying. It could be I've got my own things to say now. So, of course, I looked at your stuff, and like it really is a trek. It really is hard to make it through some of that because I don't understand how you can miss some of the points that are being made in the video. Yes, Mauler didn't work on the movie. I don't know if that was a point you brought. Maybe you did. I just don't remember. But I imagine Mauler, if he's going to go at it for 6 hours, there's got to be a good reason. You had said a lot of times that he's just nitpicking stuff, but you would be at points. You would be focused down here, looking at whatever you're doing down here. Maybe you're interacting with your chat, but you'd be down there. Mauler mentions floaty boots. He used it in the clip you had already previously reacted to, and you snap your head to look at that and say, oh, he already has the floaty boots? Like you had missed it when he had it previously, and you were just paying attention to something else. You're calling things nitpicks But at the same time, if you're not focused on things to even recall that you already saw floaty boots in the previous clip, I don't know if you really take this stuff that seriously, right? Like I myself want to know, if you wanted to do anything when you grew up, like if you're doing that now, it's like it makes me wonder if you're this unfocused now because you're focusing on things being a reactive channel now at this point. You wouldn't really be doing what you're doing now if not for what other people are saying. It does cause some concern, which is a great part of the reason I'm happy to be here, because I don't know if anyone's ever told you, but it seems like you're distracted and to your detriment, in fact. It makes me feel for you, man, because I don't quite know why you're doing this, all of this YouTube stuff now, if you're willing to stay at it a year in and not do what you were doing before. You seemed happier then. Your English was clearer then. This stuff is making you miserable. And I see that because you're getting frustrated. You don't want people putting up with a 6-hour Mauler video. You could make some money off of super chats and really hang out with your chat, but you decided to skip 4 hours to the video just to say more shit. And I get frustrated with you, and it makes me sad for you. So yes, I've looked at your stuff. It's not just other people. You honestly make me sad for you because you could be doing so much better for yourself, and you know that.
So you covered. So when you covered Dane, you covered Dane in my conversation, which is the exact same video EVS covered, correct?
Yes, but I didn't pay complete attention to EVS's stuff because I feel like I could say things I care about more than things he's saying. Why would I listen to him when I can listen to you and Dane and then make my own judgment?
Okay, but then when you cover me, you covered the exact same video EFAP covered. Is there a reason you're only picking videos that are covered by people that you already follow?
Well, I only know about this video of you where you were reacting, or whatever, streaming your reaction to Mauler's 6-hour video on Multiverse of Madness. I only know about that video because someone who saw Cultural Kill Shot and someone interacted with your channel, they said, "Hey, can you take a look at this other video?" I was asked directly. It was a request to look at something that you had done. EVS, he did the stream where he did you and Dane. He reacted to that in 2 parts. So there's 2 different streams focused on that stream between the 2 of you. And then after that, you streamed with him, with EVS, and then someone asked me, requested that I look at your Mauler video, the coverage of his 6-hour video on Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness. So that's the only reason that anything that you are involved in, I've seen, paid attention to, aside from what I look at of my own volition, is just things that have been suggested or things that other people were already looking at.
So going after these, I feel like you're just covering a lot of stuff that's already been covered lots of times before. I guess I don't know. I guess I just want an original argument.
An original argument. I mean, what do you want me to say to something? Bring up a topic. I'm happy to take questions. I mean, we're here, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, I don't know. I've asked you questions. I don't feel like I've gotten clear answers on anything. I feel like I know you have a script in front of you, but I don't really feel like you've really.
No, I don't. Seriously, do you want to see my screens? I'll show you my screens. Seriously, I'll show you my screens. I don't care. Take a look. Check it out. See. So here I have only 4 windows. Okay. So I have Discord. These are my questions. So back to Discord. Yeah. This is the browser where you're at. Hi, chat. How you doing? And then OBS. That's it. I don't need a script. We're here to talk to each other. Is that okay? I mean, I like to talk to you.
Dude,
why do I need a script?
No, that's not my point. I just find it interesting you felt the special need to point that out. But anyways, yeah, I
mean, I can ask you a question next. I'm not trying to give you a hard time.
Sure.
I mean, I kind of am, but Yeah, no. So a question here I have for you is, I don't know if you had done this yourself. That's right. No, I didn't get an answer to this. So the question I have for you here now is, do you have an opinion on what the word woke could mean to you? Do you have an opinion on what the word woke could mean to you? What do you think it means?
Quite frankly, at this point, it means nothing. It's just used around anytime they want to, like, honestly, it's, yeah, actually, I'll be blunt. It's used anytime one of these guys wants to call attention to a woman or a minority in a non-traditional role. I would say woke has become a dog, or being anti-woke has just become a dog whistle for bigotry. They don't want to call out, hey, it's a woman, or hey, it's a black person, so they just call it woke.
Well, that's not fair, and you know that. Come on now. When has anyone said anything bad about Terminator 2? Featuring a woman as the main hero. What about the whole alien? The lady, she piloted a big mech rock crusher thing in space, fought the alien. You have Joan of Arc, a movie where a woman played Joan of Arc, and I don't think too many people talk shit on that. But that, I don't know, that could be just me. Blade was kick ass. There's a whole list of examples that these guys that you're so critical of will bring up. Like, we don't mind that it's a woman and a leading role. No one gave the people at Lord of the Rings shit because a woman killed the villain at the end. No man can kill me. I'm a woman, bro. Everyone loved that. People weren't as, from the people that I had seen, at least in my circle, if you want to call it that. The people who are critical, like these guys of this media, they didn't have any problem with Wonder Woman having her own movie. Maybe there were some idiots that said some shit. You can't just look at a few people in that group and say this represents the entire group. I mean, look at Richard Spencer. You think Richard Spencer represents the right? He voted for Joe Biden this past election. He voted for Joe Biden. I don't think you can honestly just write these guys off as racist and sexist. That's just not fair. Conventional, this, that, and the other thing. We have women who aren't washing dishes kicking ass in some movies. Some of these gamers that you would probably call incels if you thought to do that, they love Samus Aran kicking ass. They were blown away when they first found out that she was fucking a chick. It's a fucking girl in space armor. People thought that shit was cool when they first saw that. It wasn't always like this, man. It wasn't. It just wasn't. A lot has changed.
So why do they call it out when there's just a trailer? If there's an issue with the writing or how the character is handled, why don't they actually judge the movie when it comes out? Why are they judging it before, while there's just a trailer?
Well, that's what trailers do. I mean, trailers are often put together to advertise the movie to you, oftentimes in a particular way. Like, maybe they want to tell you there's a lot of action in the movie, so they show a lot of action in the trailer. There's this idea that clickbait is bad, and what we see sometimes, trailers, for instance, in Drag Me to Hell, the trailer for Drag Me to Hell shows you the ending in the trailer, and then people go and see the movie, and they hate what ended up happening there, because they already saw the ending. Same thing I understand happened with Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2's ending was in the trailer, at least the end to the big fight. Trailers are meant to do something, right? And maybe, for instance, you and Dane had pointed out, and yes, anyone could look at this and go, oh, damn, here we go again, with the Rings of Power trailer and then the House of the Dragon trailer. They were calling both of those trailers woke, right? Like, I get that, but that's how it was marketed. And there's this growing trend that with this material out, this marketing, that we're going to see something that's going to be of the same quality as before. People are seeing this happen more and more, and that's the reason why there's so much more judgmental of these trailers, because they've been seeing movies turn out a certain way that they disagree with, having that happen more and more. Even with leaks that turn out to be confirmed and true about films, people find stuff to disagree with before anyone's seen anything more than the fucking trailer, and that's just how it's gotten to be. Now, yes, they did reverse their how they felt about House of the Dragon, right? They reversed how they felt after the trailer was out. There were some episodes they watched House of the Dragon and said it was good. The trailer doesn't immediately certify that property to be of that quality, because the trailer will sometimes show you the best of things or the worst of things. right? And if you're seeing more and more that these things are becoming increasingly woke, whatever you would consider that to be, that's what they're getting at. Is it's a trend to them. They're seeing these things happen, repeat patterns, and it just keeps happening. And it's not necessarily their fault. Everyone has their first impressions. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but that's literally what a first impression is. As soon as you see me around the corner looking like this, you probably think I'm a communist. And I'm not a communist.
All right, so
Come on
do
now.
you think it's fair to judge a movie by its trailer?
No, but at the same time, it's the trailer itself is implying so much to people that what are they supposed to think other than what they naturally are thinking about the trailer? And the trailer is promotional material for the movie or the video game or the novelization of some of whatever, a video game, cartoon, whatever it is. The trailer sells the product, or it has to. And if it doesn't do a good enough job, it will suffer because of that, which is why things that have the least amount of advertising don't make as much in the box office. That's how it is.
I mean, that's true, but I'm not sure exactly how it relates. But anyways, so you would contend that my assertion that a lot of these guys who complain about wokeness, the anti-woke crowd, you would contend with, you wouldn't call them racist or bigoted or anyway. How do you explain the blow up over the Little Mermaid trailer?
Well, the Little Mermaid. So I don't know if you have gotten to understand this yet, but the Little Mermaid was something like, what was it, Danish? I could probably look it up, but it's white folklore. It's literally white folklore. I've known Christians that have said that they don't celebrate Christmas. Christians who don't celebrate Christmas because Christmas is a pagan holiday. Like they're purists, right? So they don't bother with that. So when you take this white folklore, this European story, and you make the character black, people who are native to that land, them especially, they're going to go, where's my representation? They literally had their story taken and paint was applied. And maybe, I don't know if the character is supposed to be Ariel, but if that character is getting what Ariel's story is and they're not Ariel, then it's like, why don't we have a story for this character here? Now, if it is Ariel, right? Again, The Little Mermaid, that's a European tale. That's European folklore. Come on, like it's like making Snow White, like I don't know, Hawaiian. It's just like that. It makes Snow White Hawaiian. It's Snow White.
So would you have an issue of Snow White being Hawaiian?
See, I personally, I don't watch this stuff, right? I have other pieces of media that I contend with. I like things that really get to you on a cerebral level. I'm really neurotic. Okay, I don't know if you could tell, but if I were to see that, I would go, well, I just expect that of them. I can't care because they've given me no reason to.
All right, but what do you? So I understand you don't really care, but like, why? How do you explain these people freaking out just because Ariel's black? Like, how is that not racist or bigoted?
Well, you just took a little white girl story from her and gave it to a little black girl. Why take things from others? Don't you know that's not fair?
Well, it's an adaptation. The original still exists.
Well, sure, it's adaptation. This one exists, and so does that one. But I mean, why though? What's the purpose of that?
Because there's already a version of a white girl, and they just want to do a version of a black girl.
But that's just the thing is why?
Why does someone have to be black? They're just the same reason for them to be white.
So the reason for that character being white again is that's what the character is upon the story's creation. So the story has to be made. So if it's white folklore, white fairy tales, whatever, of course it's going to be a white character, right? It's originally it's another culture story. You're adapting another culture story and giving it like again. It's not up for me how these things turn out. And it's not for me. I recognize that. But I can see why people would be upset. Those would be the reasons. Why? Right? not mine necessarily, but those are their reasons. If I'm going to defend the art, I should defend it, shouldn't I? I mean, I'm an artist myself. And I would tell you the reasons for these defenses. I would tell you why people are putting up this front, why these are their terms, why this is the line in the sand. You know, why adapt? Why not make something new? And see, that's the thing is, and I'm covering this already in a video I'm putting out or have already, that, you know, if it's about representation, it doesn't matter how it's going to sell. So why not create something anyway, right? If you're doing something for representation, what does it matter if it sells, right? What is it then? It's something you want to be successful at representing other people, you know? But then if it's about representation, why not just make it that and not worry? That's why I don't take this argument seriously that we should, you know, making a new character for races that are underrepresented, that it would fail. It failing shouldn't be like the focus, man. Like, if it's about representation, if that's the purpose, make that the fucking focus. Your quarterly reports shouldn't reflect your decisions. If it's about representation, right? Do it because it's about representation. That's art. That's doing it for the art, you know? If you want to represent other people, you do it for the art. You're not doing it for these reasons that make you look good, right? You're not doing it for the money, right? So what does it matter? You make something new, whether it fails or not, you made something new to represent people, right? So why take from another group? Why borrow from anyone? You know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Create something, just something. Like, I'm begging you to do that if you can. To anyone who's listening, seriously, create something. Don't worry about if people talk to you poorly about how it's not selling. It's not for that. It's not for that fucking purpose. Like, this is why people are upset. This is the argument.
All right. So, like, okay, so I'm fine with talking about doing original properties. I mean, that'd be a criticism I have. I think the Disney live action remakes have mostly been awful. But I don't understand why people give a crap about Ariel being black. Ariel is a mermaid, and I have no historical precedence for the skin color of fictional mythological beings. And the only reason I could see for them being upset about that would be, honestly, bigotry. And essentially your assertion is that these guys aren't bigots, and you haven't done anything to assuage me of that.
Well, but so again, I mean, I've given you reason. I don't know why you would be confused. This is why you frustrate a lot of people, Robert. And no offense, right? No offense to you at all. This is why people are frustrated with you. I've just given you the reasons, right? Why people, you just now said you don't understand why they would be after I gave you the reasons. That,
they're not good reasons, though.
How aren't they good reasons? Like, they are, here's the thing, they are the reasons. You said you were curious about the reasons. Those are the reasons, right? It doesn't have to be good to you. It doesn't have to make sense to you. Right? Like, those are their reasons. And it can't really be looked at as a racist thing unless someone is seriously making it. I know maybe it's a bit hard to gauge these days, but really, like, all the reasons I gave, yes, people can have their own reasons, right? I'm not going to say that there aren't racist people pissed off about this, but I've given you a good number of reasons why. And, I don't know how you could be confused. I mean, yes, I would like to know all the reasons as well, but I only know as many as make sense to me. So the only ones that make sense to me, I've presented to you. Right? Those reasons there. Right? So I don't understand why you still don't understand when I've given you a good number. Right? I don't know why.
All right, so I mean, I think we've already established, and we can agree that a lot of these people are upset about Black Ariel. We might disagree on the reasons, but they're upset about Black Ariel. So, why were they also upset when the trailer for Prey was released and it was revealed that a woman would be fighting a predator?
I'd have to imagine my own reasons, because that wasn't a huge focus of mine. I looked at that as just another Hollywood film. I mean, the set pieces and everything, the setting, the characters involved, they themselves are interesting, but I don't necessarily know of those things, right? Like, if I were to try to imagine why people would dislike that, I know for a fact people tend to not like change so much. And they're looking at, I imagine, Predator, because when you think about aliens and shit, and you have to think about the Predator, you're likely also thinking immediately on strength, right? How big a person looks that's going to be taking on the Predator. So when they see that it's a scrawny girl, they don't know what to think. And maybe there's a nice underdog story there that could drive up excitement, certainly, but I can't see why they would have really an issue other than maybe they want a big guy fighting the Predator instead. I think they're let down because, for instance, right, say for instance, you want a character to return to a comic book, right, but they get a lame-ass villain to fight instead, right? That would suck. You like, oh, damn, right? So they get another Predator film, right, and their hero isn't maybe how they would see themselves in the film, if at all. When you see like these big fight movies, there is some projection of the self onto these things. It's not to say that that's necessarily the case with how this turned out. However, I do know for a fact that some people, they see themselves in the shoes of the protagonist, and they can't really identify with a scrawny Native American woman. They really can't do that, so maybe they're let down by that. I can't tell you all the reasons why someone would be irritated by that. I don't typically pay attention to too much buzz unless the buzz has reached some kind of strength, volume, cacophony. So in terms of mainstream stuff coming out, I don't really know of the reasons why for specifically like Prey. I can't think of any other things where I can tell you to deal with. But yeah, I'm not really sure, honestly. I think people just really want to see themselves in the hero, the main character, and not too many people can in this film. I don't know. It's not for me to say. It's hard for me to say.
All right, so yeah, so I mean, there was a bit of a blow up over Prey, and yeah, no, largely Critical Drinker was upset, and lots of people were upset because they couldn't see how a woman could beat up a predator, despite the fact that physical strength has never been what defeats a predator in the end of any of these movies. So there was also a blow up over Rings of Power because there was a warrior Galadriel and a black hobbit, Latino elf, and people were upset over this. How am I supposed to interpret that when they're just getting upset over simple things like that? Because it seems pretty bigoted to me.
Well, okay, so I have to wonder if these were casting choices, right? To do with the race of each character. I have to wonder if it was, because I know that there was, when the Rings of Power, I think the showrunners, the writers, they were talking about how they want this Middle Earth to be more representative of the real world. I know that was a thing that was said by some weirdo. I'm wondering if, because that was the aim, the direction they wanted to go, that the cast turned out to be as diverse as it had been. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I'm thinking that was the case, but it's not for me. Again, not for me to say. I don't think people are expecting these races, these racial groups who weren't really represented really at all, probably in like the trilogy, and maybe even The Hobbit. I'm not quite sure. I didn't see The Hobbit, but I did see the trilogy, and I think with there being a more diverse group, sure, certainly there could be some irritation there. But it's like this doesn't actually feel like Middle Earth I was watching before. When they're seeing that it's not quite the Middle Earth they were watching before, right? And they're seeing these statements from showrunners that they're going to make it more representative of the real world. It's like, what was the actual focus here? I have been someone who was not in agreement with how Rings of Power, their direction. I'm not really approving of it, but there's so much I could go over there that just, I don't even know if now's the time to do that because we're coming to the end of our segment, I'm thinking. But my issue with Rings of Power, by the way, if I'm going to have an issue of all the issues, the primary one is that they chose Galadriel as their main character. And now maybe you're asking yourself why I think Galadriel, why is that my issue? Why should that be? Well, Galadriel, we already know is in the trilogy films, so she can't die. So there's no suspense. We already know that she can't die. She serves the function of the main character poorly, very, very poor, because the fact that we know that she's alive in the fucking trilogy. Like, that's my issue, is you chose the worst person for the fucking job. You chose the worst person for the job. She's going to be there in the trilogy. Why the fuck did you do that? That's my problem with Galadriel being. That's honestly, in my opinion, the biggest issue with the show. That specifically is making Galadriel your main character. That's not a good idea. Not at all.
So, are you only interested in a character if there's only a threat of them dying?
Well, if a character is not going to die, if the threat of death is not part of an adventure, then you're not dealing in a mature show at all. First of all, secondly, you're dealing in fantasy violence. Okay, if your fantasy violence excludes your main character from mortality itself, because they're in the trilogy films, if that's the case, then you are giving that character the ultimate plot armor. You're giving them God mode. Why does the main character have God mode turned on? Can you tell me that? Because they chose the wrong person for the job. And so immediately, any suspense regarding the danger that they're involved in is completely done away with. We already know there's no way they're going to actually lose in this fight. They may get knocked the fuck, right? But they're still going to win at the end. They're not going to die. So there's no threat to their life. There's zero threat to their life. They are the worst choice for that role because God mode is turned on for them. That's plot armor, my man. That's plot armor.
So did you have the same issue with Obi-Wan being a major character in the prequels?
No, and the reason why is, so you had these Star Wars films, Obi-Wan being involved, it's only so much of a point as Darth Vader is involved, right? It's only so much of a point. Like, I don't know how many people know Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker until the prequels. I don't know how many people know that before those even came out, right? But it's that
Empire.
the only reason I would care that Obi-Wan is involved at all is if it's before his death, his involvement at any point before his death gives us a character arc, right? Maybe that's valuable to me with Galadriel, but at the same time, I'm not even interested in her as a character, right? If she could die, maybe I would watch it because maybe I would want her to die, right? But she fucking can't, right? So, no, with Obi-Wan being able to develop over that time, yes, okay, I guess that's fine. And I know what's going on here because Galadriel, yes, you can see her development come out as well, but I'm not annoyed by Obi-Wan, right? If a character annoys me, I don't care what happens to them, right? Galadriel in this show annoys the fuck out of me, right? So her development doesn't matter to me, right? Do I value her in the trilogy films? No. Well, there's a lot of attitude, right? And maybe you have to be someone with an attitude and shit, right? But it just doesn't feel right. Her whimsying about when she was fighting against all those cadets or whatever, not wearing armor, and she's flowing about the scene. Like it doesn't feel convincing to me because it's just on point. He steps behind me and bam, I'm guarding from behind. Yeah, boy. It's when the whole thing feels constructed like I'm watching a play that is very obviously all the actors it's like they're on stilts and shit. They don't quite operate so smooth and flowing as they probably should. Okay. Yeah. Galadriel's annoying as fuck to me. Back.
So there was a point for me guiding you through all of that. So I wanted to point out how these people blow up over Galadriel and Black Hobbit and Hispanic Elf before the shows even come out. They're blowing up and getting pissed at it. They blow up over Little Mermaid, Black Little Mermaid, before the movies even come out, and it's out there. They blow up over Prey because the main character is a woman, even though a main female hero in horror movies is pretty much cliche at this point, but they blow up over it because apparently it matters that she can't punch out the villain. This is a pattern. It's a clear pattern. And they always have their excuses. You've actually said quite a few of the excuses. I'm trying to understand how do you watch how they always do this and not pick up on it? So they blew up over the Prey trailer because there is a woman as the lead character, and even though it's pretty much cliche that women lead in horror movies, they blew up over it. They blew up over Rings of Power because they blew up over Prey before it even came out. And they blew up over Rings of Power before it even came out because Galadriel would be a warrior, and you'd have a Hispanic elf, and you'd have a black hobbit. And they blew up over Little Mermaid because it's a black mermaid. And it's a pattern behavior, and they always have these excuses. When in reality, we're dealing with art. We're dealing with adaptations of various things. It's, don't you think if they're actually doing honest criticism, that they would wait till it came out and actually give you their honest opinion? Why are they calling out all this stuff? And why is it always the identity politics stuff they feel focused on calling out? Why not just see how it turns out?
Okay, so let's see. That's trying to think back to. So okay, Galadriel, right? She being like a warrior or whatever. So people are familiar with her being more ladylike, doing more in line with not so much anything like warrior stuff, right? She's not a character we've seen ordinarily in that role, right? Like, yes, maybe she's done something better, or she's done something specific in the future, but people they're not used to that kind of thing, and I don't think that people are necessarily in agreement that that's because of how she can apply herself to things. That maybe that's not something that she would necessarily be best suited for. Now you can go on, because I know this is often the thing that people like to do, that make a lot of these arguments and stuff. I know that it's like, well, I can't just consider it as, it's not sexism for once. I can't just consider it that. When people are saying, hey, the writing is important, right? When you have these characters written and established a certain way, when you have these characters written and established a certain way, and you're trying to break from that, right? People who do care so much for Lord of the Rings, them not having that character basically situate that in that mold that they basically had written for them, right? They're breaking away from intentions or otherwise, but at the same time, like, yes, those things aren't written or whatever, right? That's not necessarily a time period that Tolkien necessarily bothered with, but these are moments for people to write these things, right? Galadriel, okay, so this isn't written, right? Galadriel, she's not necessarily assigned stuff, so maybe she'll work her way into that position that she's in the trilogy films. Maybe at some point we can do something with this. I don't think people want that for that character, and maybe there was something in those books that had dictated something to Galadriel. I'm not quite sure. I know that these people who were writing these things for Rings of Power, I know that they essentially had free will to write so much within a period, right? But so the thing with Galadriel is people probably aren't liking the idea that she is where she is in that film when maybe she's a better character somewhere else, right? Like, I've already expressed my issues with Galadriel. That's all beside the point now. Beyond that, the mention of the Black Hobbits and the ethnic, I'll say ethnic, and I don't know how else to put it, the ethnic groups of different characters and stuff. People understand that a lot of these communities were like insular, right? Like, so when these places have communities that keep it insular, right? So it's not necessarily straying outside of the white skin tone. That's just something that those characters did in those books, right? So it's not something that people are necessarily kind towards. I don't know, that you would have this writing where it does tell to you, hey, like hobbits and some of these other communities, they're not just open, right? It's not a multicultural center, So people who do read these books and have these issues with the Black Hobbit and the Black Dwarf Queen, I know that people who are having these issues pertaining to the insular communities not necessarily being kept that way as they were written in the books, right? The thing with the dwarfs, the female dwarf queen, she being black or whatever, that I understand is maybe an issue for some people over there in a corner somewhere. But I'm seeing mostly from people who have an issue with that this character doesn't have a beard like she should. And if that's how that was written for that race of characters, the dwarves, if they're all supposed to have beards, you're taking people out of that immersion they're probably looking for, and you're saying, hey, well, the queen doesn't have a fucking beard. How do you like that? Right? Like it's not kind to the source material. It just really isn't in a lot of cases. And that's for people who do have issues with really deep issue with Tolkien's work being tampered with.
All right, so I think I got the gist of what you were saying. So, can you answer what book Rings of Power was based on by Tolkien?
Okay. Why am I the only screen? Wait, what's happening? Can I name the book that the Rings of Power stuff is from? I understand that Amazon has rights to Silmarillion and a couple other things, or something. I can't quite remember the names of these books.
All right, so do you know what Silmarillion is?
Yeah, it's a piece of writing.
Yeah, but can you get more descript?
Get more to script. I mean, it's Tolkien wrote it. It's a piece of writing. It's got characters in it.
So you're talking about keeping true to the source material, but I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't read the Silmarillion, but I know what it is. It's a collection of short stories and appendices put together after Tolkien died.
All right, and well, I don't know if you're necessarily asking me about my particular answers to questions, but in general, I'm actually just really answering with the arguments of people, with arguments that you may have missed.
All right, yeah, I know you're hitting me. You're saying a lot of the arguments that people like, a lot of the people I watch do, Critical Drinker, Geeks and Gamers, all that jazz.
Those are their arguments. Like people aren't necessarily being understood, and they're presenting their arguments, and it's like they're being ignored. I just want to make sure that everyone's heard what they have to say.
Well, don't you find it funny that they always have the argument to criticize a woman in a non-traditional role or a minority in a lead role before the things even come out? Doesn't that seem very suspicious?
Wait, does it seem suspicious that they criticize things before they come out?
Well, criticize specific elements. Whenever Rings of Power showed a warrior Galadriel, and all of a sudden all of them got triggered. Prey showed a woman beating up, fighting a predator, and everyone got triggered. What was the other one? Little Mermaid. That hasn't come out yet, and everybody's triggered because the mermaid's black. Why? This seems like a pattern to me.
Well, I've kind of given you reasons for a lot of that already.
Yeah,
kind of already given you the reasons already.
Yeah, no, but don't you find it weird that they always find a reason to complain whenever there's someone who's essentially not a white man in these roles?
So typically when something comes up that has a female in the leading role or a black man in the leading role, people have problems with that?
Yeah, typically, especially in franchise stuff and Disney stuff.
Well, see that, okay. Man, okay. So I don't know if you know this, but these Marvel movies, right? The Marvel shows, it's product, right? And
pretty much all movies are.
Yeah, right. But these are products that are meant to sell like toys and shit, dude. Right? So and
comic books have always been like that.
Yeah, I mean comic books are like that too. Yeah, it's stuff to sell things. Yeah, comic books are like that. You could even argue that some Netflix shows they exist to sell video games, you know? So that's like a thing. But are you just saying that people are saying that it's woke from the get-go with the trailer because there's a colored person in it? Or
that always seems to be what happens.
Oh, I'm glad that you say that it seems to be, because I mean, if you are viewing it and considering your perspective primarily, which is you would consider your perspective primarily most of the time, right? I mean, of course that would be something that you come back to, but only if you really find yourself looking for that. Like, yes, you're going to have it being obvious that people are in droves acting a certain way, but it's it's not always just, right? It's not always that they're just acting like this when a black person or a Hispanic woman is on screen. It's not always just like that. And that's why it's good that you say it seems, right? Because I don't actually see that happening.
Name an MCU movie with a woman as lead, or an MCU project with a woman as a lead that they didn't freak out over.
Honestly, they haven't freaked out over it. It's a woman's lead. Let me think about that. Let me think about that. I don't know if I can necessarily think of any. I'd probably have to pull up a list of movies that Marvel has put out. Are you just saying Marvel, right? That Marvel has put out, just specifically them, right?
Well, I specified MCU. Name a single MCU movie that stars a woman that they didn't freak out over, or MCU property.
Avengers.
Last I saw, Robert Downey Jr. was listed as lead of that.
Okay, so you would say that what, Scarlett Johansson's just a supporting role?
I mean, you could call her co-starring at least, but I'm talking about a woman as a lead, woman as the headliner.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily can, but I mean, are you just leaving that they're having an issue and it just so happens that there's a woman as the lead?
Well, it's a pattern. I'm trying to point out to you that there's a pattern, and they always have an excuse to complain why there's a woman or a minority in a lead role, and that makes it bad. They always find an excuse to complain about that, and they always, usually it's like source material or something like that, and and that's why it gets confusing, because there can be actually complaints that relate back to source material, but it's impossible to even complain about source material before we've even seen it, and quite frankly, like when it comes to just like a gender or a race or even a sexual preference, I do not care as long as it's handled well, and it's impossible to know if it's handled well until it's come out. And lots of times when these guys freak out, it is handled well.
Right, right, sure, certainly. I'm sure a lot of that is the case in some context or another. I'm sure that it is. I found that you often take what people are saying and you aren't quite getting it. And I found myself oftentimes with much of what I've seen of you, whether it be your video or someone else's, that you aren't understanding points that people are having, that people are giving. And even when I tell you points that people have made, that people have their criticisms, their arguments, I don't see you considering what they're saying for what it is. I see you still defaulting to a position that you're still holding. And it's not that you should change on the spot, but it's that when people tell you of their realistic issues, right? The realistic issues, it's being written off as something that it isn't. And even if you could say that people always have an issue when it just so happens there's a woman in the leading role, right? I'm not seeing you consider them fairly for what they're saying when they do present their points to you. So even if there is some outrage around the movie where a woman is the main character, they're presenting points that you actually just don't consider as valid. So you still just default to what you're saying before, even if you've heard what they're saying. It's like they've never said anything to you. You could say, yes, this is happening here, but the justifications for those things probably aren't known to you. So I don't know if I can necessarily take pointing that out as a point at all. You'd have to understand them for it to equal out, right? Like if it's being brought up, it should equal out that you also understand their points, right? And you don't seem to.
Yes, but don't you find it interesting how they always seem to freak out whenever, like, name me one MCU property where they announced, hey, there's an MCU property, it's going to have a woman as a lead, and they said, oh, that sounds cool. I can't wait to watch that.
Oh, no one talks like that, so I haven't heard anyone say that. All joking aside,
well, I mean, name one they were excited for.
Okay, so are you asking for examples of something where people were excited specifically because of the gender?
No, they don't have to be excited because of the gender. They just have to look at a movie and, maybe there's look at a movie with a woman as the lead and be like, I'm excited to see this.
People who are typically excited to see something, like regardless of who's in the film, they're either people who were excited by what they see, which could be any average person really in America at least, right? I'm sure China will eat up most of what Marvel pushes out, at least they used to, right? So anyone could, but I've seen people who I would call average consumers. They are ecstatic with whatever's put out anyway. I just think if they're gonna have any kind of problem or whatever with shit, right? There would be some kind of reason there, right? If they're having an issue because there's a woman in the film, okay, but what are the contributing factors, right? Is it that they've done poorly with this kind of thing before, right? Like what specifically are they? Because if I'm seeing that it's, for instance, Taika Waititi is doing Thor 4 for the Horde, right? As an example, if I see Taika Waititi is doing that, then I and a number of people may groan because some of us didn't really like how Love and Thunder turned out, right? So if we don't like how Love and Thunder turned out so much, right, and we see Taika Waititi's on the next movie, we're gonna groan, right? So it's not always just because, as it so happens to be, a woman on the thing, right? People didn't give a fuck that Samuel L. Jackson filled the shoes of Nick Fury, right? When Nick Fury was originally white. People didn't really give a shit about that. I didn't see really anyone complain about that, right? If we're going to talk about woke stuff, if you want to call it that, closer to the time being when things were at an all-time high, I didn't, among all of the raves for Avengers, see anyone say, but Samuel L. Jackson was playing Nick Fury, which should have happened because Nick Fury's a white guy, right? Like, yeah, maybe they did a Nick Fury thing in the comics at some point as black, but I don't know quite when that comic came out. I don't know that. The people weren't irritated with that. And it was blackwashing, if you want to call it that, because we say whitewashing, right? Whitewash is what was that? Blackwashing. That people weren't complaining about that, right? So as far as I've seen, I don't know. Maybe you've seen different things, but I don't know. I can't speak for you. So it just depends on what's going on around that thing. That's really what it is. Contributing factors and otherwise. That's really what it is.
Well, the atmosphere of film discourse was different when Iron Man came out, so it was a bit different. That being said, why do you think it's okay for Samuel L. Jackson to play Nick Fury, but not okay for Halle Bailey to play Ariel?
Okay, so go over a thing. Yeah, Marvel, they produce products. An old folklore tale, right? An old European folklore tale had their main character's race changed, right? It was something that is held close to heart. That those stories, just like with Sinterklaas, right, which is Santa Claus's name, stories of these different folklore mythological characters, right? I'm sure there are some people who do actually worship Loki and Odin and all of that. I'm sure they would have a problem maybe with something changing about fucking that. But it's so while that sort of shares in both of those things, Nick Fury is just a character in the comic book. Ariel is a character from folklore that people from a different culture, right? That's their thing, and Hollywood wants to change that for that story. Okay, that's what, and also people who grew up watching these Disney movies that were animated, they remember Ariel then, and then when they get this live action thing, it doesn't feel like it was before, right? The characters are different looking or whatever, right? I can't be irritated if I go to work tomorrow and the inside of my office room, right, just is painted a different color, right? What if it's distracting to me or something, right? Suddenly I'm racist against some wallpapers. Like, dude, it's a little different, all right?
So
it's a little bit different.
Wouldn't you say, like, if you walked into work and the wallpaper was different, that and you being upset about it for a short time, wouldn't you agree that's not really the best complaint, right?
Well, that depends. Is it causing me some sort of deep, heartfelt issues
It's
or whatever,
fucking
right?
wallpaper.
Is it driving my mental thing up the wall, right? Like, what's wrong with me in particular that could be an issue,
Okay, so if you have an issue with wallpaper, that's a you issue.
right? And it's being imposed on me by other people.
So if you have an issue with Ariel, you would again agree, using your own analogy, that's a you issue.
Again, it's an issue that I'm having that's being imposed on me by someone else.
But I mean, it's a you issue inherently, right?
It's a me issue that's being imposed on me by someone else.
Were you excited to see the live action Little Mermaid?
Was I excited? Is that what you asked me? Was I excited?
Yeah, were you excited to see the live action Little Mermaid when it comes out?
Why would I watch it? I'm a grown man.
So why do you care that she's black?
When did I say I did it?
Well, you've been arguing for these guys who freak out because she's black.
Oh, no, you asked me like why someone could have a problem with that sort of thing, and I just answered you. I literally just gave you their list of issues.
Okay, so you've brought up a whole bunch of issues on your own, talking about how the Little Mermaid shouldn't be black. And so, I mean, inherently, why do you care?
Well, again, it's not me that cares. And I told you the problems that other people had. You asked me, hey, what's the deal with that? And I told you what other people had a problem with that, why they do.
Well, you seem like you put a lot of thought into it, though.
Well, yeah, because I care about media, right? In general, I have to have some kind of understanding of it if I'm going to talk about it, right? Now, I may not actually have personal issues with the change, but I'm aware that some people have an issue with it. Again, you're taking from someone else's culture to create an adaptation in place of a main character, and an original character. In place of that, you're adapting someone else's culture for your product. You said Disney is evil, but you are fine with supporting their changing of culture, someone else's culture, for money, no less. And they're probably going to do a shitty job too. It's not that it changes your culture. It's not that it's changing your culture. It's that someone is adapting your culture and changing it with that movie, right? They're changing specifically that story for that movie, right? They're not changing the story. Everyone understands that. But it's that you're adapting someone else's culture to make a movie to make money.
Explain to me the dynamics of mermaid culture.
Mermaid? What do you mean mermaid culture?
You're getting upset that they're changing the culture. They shouldn't be adapting the culture or changing the culture. I'm asking you to explain the dynamics of mermaid culture.
You asked me to explain the dynamics of mermaid culture. Why?
Yes. You're arguing that they're changing culture, that they're violating the culture by making her black. Explain what they're violating.
No, it's not mermaid culture that's being changed. It's where those stories came from, that you're adapting that area of the world, those people, their culture, their stories that written by their people. Those stories are a part of their culture. You are adapting a part of someone else's culture. This story that was written, you are taking a story that was written by a different culture, a story that is very old, and you are changing a detail about that story to adapt it to make a movie that makes money. You are asking me to give you a list of reasons why people would have a problem with someone else's culture, a story that was written by those people, right? Changing that story, that culture, not your culture, not someone else's culture, right? Taking someone else's story they wrote, that part of that person, that country of origin, whatever, something from their homeland. You're taking that story and changing an aspect to make an adaptation to make money off a movie. You, like I said, you've said before that you think Disney is evil. You said Disney is evil. And you're having some kind of confusion about you regarding Disney adapting a foreign culture's stories to make money, adapting them, changing a detail for modern day audiences or something. should I go on for another hour about the problem here? I mean, again, it's not my problem, but I'm aware of the problem. This is the reason. This is the problem.
So, are you under the impression that somehow the original animated Little Mermaid is a one-to-one adaptation of the original book?
Is it a one-to-one adaptation of the book?
Was the original animated A Little Mermaid a perfect adaptation of the book?
Was it a perfect adaptation of the book? I don't know that.
Okay, so then how do you know to be upset about this new version?
No, again, I'm just presenting to you the problems that they have. At least one of the problems that people would have. I've told you before, these are their reasons. I'm aware of their reasons. Okay.
But yeah, you're essentially here defending them, though. So I'm asking you to use your own judgment here, not use their reasons. Use your own judgment. Think through it critically yourself.
Think through what? What specifically are you asking me to think through?
Okay, so look at how they operate. Anytime there's a woman or minority in some sort of major role, almost universally, they will pan it. And they will find some reason, whether it be cultural or adaptation or, whatever fits. And they'll complain about it and do this huge blast. Almost always before the movie even comes out. So they don't even know if these are valid criticisms. And you see this happen over and over and over and over again. And when I see that happening over and over and over again, it's clear bigotry.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You asked me, right, what my problems are or whatever, right? And you said for me to use my interpretation, and then I'm like, my interpretation of what? And you said you presented to me this situation, this scenario, whatever. That so these people, right? Not me, right? But these other people over here, right? So they're irritated. They have a problem. I was like, okay. And so are you asking me what the problem is, or what my problem is, or like what are you specific? Because I can't answer something I don't understand.
Well, I mean, you are here essentially as an avatar for them, and I'm kind of asking you to think separately.
Okay. No, I'm not. Why would they be here in anyone else's name?
Because you're using their arguments, and I'm actually asking you not to use their arguments. I'm asking you to think critically. So, have you seen any of the properties I've talked about? Like, what are your independent thoughts on them?
Okay, so we're just changing the question suddenly? Because you were.
Well, I mean, I was asking you to think critically. I was asking you to think critically on this instead of just regurgitating other people's arguments.
But about the Little Mermaid, right? But you said about the Little Mermaid, you said people.
I mean, that's part of it.
Left and thing. Okay, but so you're asking me to think critically about what other people think, right? Or you're asking me to think critically about things that are out right now, or what?
I'm asking you to think critically about the things the repeated patterns that you're seeing. About them always freaking out over a woman or minority or someone's sexual preference, these elements in movies. They always freak out over them. And why do they always freak out over them? Think critically on that. Why are they always doing this? It's almost like they're trying to net a certain audience. Don't you think that's strange?
Well, I mean, but I guess it's a fair question to ask, but I've sort of already gone over that, right? So, and maybe I wasn't making it a direct focus, right? But it's that. So again, it's to do with the details around, like contributing factors, right? It's who's putting this out, right? What have we seen? Kind of like I said before with Taika Waititi, right? If I saw that Thor 4 for the Horde was coming out and Taika Waititi was attached to it, I and others would be at least mildly annoyed. Not everyone, of course, but I and others, right? However much right, would be mildly annoyed that it's Taika Waititi again on Thor when we saw Thor: Love and Thunder had its issues, right? So the issues with that, if we're seeing Thor for the Horde come out and Taika Waititi is attached to that property, then yeah, they're not going to be so happy about it. So regardless of what they even put in the trailer, it's who is making it, and then aside from who's making it, there's what studio is attached, how many writers are attached to the film. Okay, how long will it take for this movie to come out? What edits are they making that we can tell have been made? If you can even tell that kind of thing. It's just because you're seeing that there's black people and women much more visible than before, if you could say that, right? Just because they're in media that people are irritated about, right? You have to ask yourself about the contributing factors. It's not always just as basic as, oh, girl bad, black dumb. It's nothing like that. For some people that are simple, yes, it is. But maybe you've only dealt with just simple people. Maybe you only see simple people because you're looking at the average person. I don't know, right? But it's that if you're not looking at their arguments, this is why I say to you, and I don't think you understand what these people are saying when they do present their arguments. I've already presented you their arguments, right? And you're going to say, oh, well, you're focusing on their arguments. Okay, well, I kind of have to. You're asking me why I and others could be irritated by something, right? And I think about stuff like this time to time because I'm big on media. I make media all the time. I'm constantly making new shit, okay? Now, when I am looking at these things like repeat patterns of contributing factors, and I also am aware of all these things I told you and then some, right? And then at the same time, when you hear this stuff, you tell me you still don't understand, and then you still are trying to write it off as just racism or sexism. Again, it's contributing factors. It's how good are these people at making these movies? How good are they at promotional material, right? And you're asking now about industry standards by that point, the meta of Hollywood, compositions of shots, storyboarding. You're talking about all the things, how many trailers they produce, is the very last scene of the movie in the trailer. There are so many things happening. It's not just as simple as there's a cult down the street and they're making loud noises about sheep. It's nothing like that, dude. Yes, again, there are some fucking weirdos out there. There are some actual racists and sexists out there. But you'll often find as well that they're in your camp as well. There are racists and sexists on both sides. Not that it's just a whataboutism shit that you have some kind of problem with. I don't even know. But it's not just that there's women and black people running around and shit. It's the contributing factors as well as that. These movies, these productions, they're not just the sum of their parts. They are much more than that. Every single part, every aspect carries massive weight. Sound design carries just as much weight as the lighting department does. Okay? You're asking me to think critically about stuff, but I keep presenting to you the facts of the market, of things I understand about what makes media good and bad. The average person, whether you want to believe it or not, you're still asking me what other people are thinking, because I think about all of that shit and then some, and I give you this as my final, at least my developed so far, most recent draft thought on the thing.
Okay, so help? Well, I mean, you've gone through a whole diatribe, and I'm not asking you to break down every single element of every single movie or every single trailer. I'm just asking you if you think it's really weird that there's this pattern, and these guys all follow it. This pattern of any time there's a woman or some sort of minority or something like that in some sort of role of power or fulfilling some sort of non-traditional role, and they always find an excuse to complain about it. Always there's some sort of excuse. Even with The Woman King. The Woman King wasn't even a franchise thing, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's not historically accurate. It's like, so what? To my understanding, it was a pretty good movie. Not all perfectly historically accurate movies are necessarily bad. And I mean, The Patriot is probably a movie a lot of these guys would probably really like, and that's not historically accurate remotely. So why is The Patriot okay, but not The Woman King? There's... Okay,
hold on, wait. Why? Oh my god. You probably chose the worst movie to do that with, my man. Dude, The Woman King, I don't know if you care or not about this, but they made slave traders the heroes. That's the problem with the historical inaccuracy. The literal slave traders were made the heroes. Why are you arguing in defense of them? What is wrong with you?
Have you seen the movie?
Why the fuck would I?
Well, how do you know if it's any good or not?
It doesn't matter if it's good or not, dude. I thought racism was bad and shit. Don't you still have a problem with slavery or whatever? Huh?
Well, can you name for me one movie that's been perfectly historically accurate?
It's not even relevant, dude. That's not even because look again. The
100%
problem
relevant.
is the problem that people had. Sorry that we're breaking from the rules of the format, but the problem people had was that you were dressing up slave traders in a positive light by making them your main characters. Like I don't care if they won the day or whatever the fuck, right? I don't care about that. Is that you made slave traders your main characters, and you made them the main characters in that they're pursuing their freedom or whatever the fuck, or the safety of their own fucking country and their people when they fucking traded slaves. What the fuck do I care if the movie's good at that point, dude?
Well,
Fuck's sake.
what do you think of Inglorious Bastards?
Hey guys, let's platform the fucking slave traders.
Long dead slave traders.
Good idea. Good night. My roommate's going to sleep. Sorry.
So, what are your thoughts on Inglorious Bastards?
What are my thoughts? Okay. The killing Nazis? Hey, let's. Yo, dude, so many good shots, right? I don't care about the historical inaccuracies of shit with that, right? Because the focus of that film is we're gonna blow shit up, we're gonna kill a bunch of people, right? We're not making bad people look good and good people look bad necessarily. This is such a, I don't know if this is a weird false equivalency thing you're going for or not telling me, but I don't know what point you're going for here. I'm more focused with the action in that case. Here you are with your argument again, trying to, well, you're gonna be fine with the action here, but not the action over here. And it's like, I hate this idea that people want to go on about reparations, and then we have an opportunity for ourselves to make slave traders the main characters of our movie in some manner. I don't care. We kill the fuck to the Nazis in Inglourious Bastards, and it's a fun ride. Okay, that's a fun movie. Okay.
So, what you're saying is that you're okay with historical accuracy as long as what? I'm actually not even sure what your argument is.
So I told you that like the problem with the Woman King, if I were to have a fucking problem at all, is the fact that we've made slave traders the main characters. We've made them like the focus of. I'm not worried about this whole subvert expectations thing. When I see, I don't remember her name. Sorry, but the Woman King herself. I can't remember her fucking name.
Viola
Doesn't
Davis.
matter. Thank you so much. When Viola Davis was on the carpet saying that people have to go see this movie because the Hollywood, the machine that is Hollywood is killing people, or she's saying some weird shit, and it's like she's trying to tell us that if we don't watch this movie, that we're letting Hollywood and the world know we're sending a message that we don't want to see some people in certain positions. And like I can't put up with that. Like maybe I could have cared 5 years down the road. Maybe I could have given a shit about seeing this movie 5 years down the road, right? But when I see people come out afterwards and try to guilt trip us into watching a movie, right, that we sort of read up on before the movie even came out, I'm sorry, I can't be troubled to bother with the Woman King.
So, when they make a movie about the Founding Fathers, should the Founding Fathers pretty much all be portrayed as villains then?
Well, it depends on if you want to go, because I'm not saying that we should keep from like doing like fictional, historical revisionism, whatever, right? I'm not going to say that we shouldn't do that. It's irritating to me, the whole slave trader thing with the Woman King. That's irritating to me, right? I don't even really want to entertain it beyond that point if I can help it. But with the Founding Fathers film, it depends on what you want to do with that movie. You know, I don't know if I can necessarily call them good or evil. I think the Bill of Rights is an incredible document. I don't know quite what they did in their personal life.
I mean, most of them were slavers. So, I mean, it seems weird that you're going to be like, oh, they can do nuance to a Founding Fathers movie, but not nuance with the Woman King. It just seems like a weird double standard.
Well, I mean, sure, certainly. I guess you could say that, but I'm aware of shit to do with the Woman King. I'm not tuned in on what the Founding Fathers did in their time. And at the same time, I don't quite know to what extent shit went on with their life, where the focus of the movie would be. I don't know to what degree you should portray the Founding Fathers. I'm not really in a position to say quite how they should do that. I'm just with the Woman King. I'm just irritated with the fact that again they would portray slave traders as like main characters and shit, right? I'm not so fond of that kind of thing because there's more to it, right? There's a good lot more to it we could possibly glean, right? But with the founding fathers again depends like what you want to focus on, what period, how much do you want to focus on that. I don't quite know what I could think because I don't know where you're trying to go. I saw the promotional material for the Woman King, looked a little bit into it, and was just irritated. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the focus is. I don't know if that movie's even out. When we talk about the founding fathers, I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you.
Well, still, I mean, you're arguing that they maybe do a founding fathers movie with nuance, you know, but the fact is they were slavers. So to apply that same logic that you're putting down the Woman King to a movie about the founding fathers, you'd have to portray almost all of them as villains.
I mean, so the only reason I would, off the top of my head, the only reason why I can really think of there really being a difference necessarily between one thing and another is the Woman King. Those people portrayed, depicted, right? They sold their people, right? However, I don't know if the people they sold, traded, whatever. I don't know how many of them were actually criminals because I understand that some of them were. I can't say to what effect that they were, but I know that's something that is a possibility that a good portion of them were criminals or prisoners and traitors to their people. I don't know. And with the founding fathers, the only thing I can really think is okay, they needed workers, right? And they came to a place where it's like I can offer you goods and services for people, right? Every single culture in the world across the globe, every single one, they all engaged in some fucked up shit. I think most, if not all of those cultures, still developing also, by the way, practiced in using slaves for all kinds of shit, right? I think the Jews were slaves in Egypt, but I'm not quite sure. And so, like, should we have a problem with Egyptians on the same level? How long did a lot of this go for? How many casualties were there? Hell, fucking the Great Wall of China has dead people inside of it. The people that were made to work on the wall, they actually, a lot of them died. I understand they were actually used to make the wall stronger. I don't quite know to what degree that there is so much of that happened with the wall. That is, I understand it's something that did exactly happen. But yeah, there's enslavement shit all kinds across the world, all kinds of cultures. So it's just, I can't just condemn the entire world because there are evil people on it. I can't just do that. Shit's bad, shit's good, right? It's, we all live here, you know?
So, I mean, you do realize you just were talking about how the Woman Kings were slave traders and that's bad and we should never justify it. But then you started justifying the founding fathers being slavers and shit like that just because they need it. Don't you think that's a weird take?
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't.
Do you enjoy pain?
Pain don't hurt.